Hey, what's up, everybody? Jerry L here, and welcome to Quick Conversations. Today we have Anshia Crooms, founder of Briclyn Entertainment, and two-time Grammy nominee Eric Roberson, and we'll be discussing strategies for talent buying and shifting your brand and the power of gathering. As a quick reminder, we will be recording this via Zoom for playback on Facebook. When any additional recording of this program without the express written permission of the Recording Academy is prohibited. So we hope you enjoy, and Eric and Anshia, take it away.
Appreciate it, Jeriel. Shia Crooms, how are you doing?
I'm good, Eric Roberson. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's an honor and pleasure to always talk to you. All right, so look, I know you very well, but I have a couple of questions. I
Okay.
want to just start by how you got your start in the music business.
Sure. Okay. Well, I went to Bowie State University, and when I was in college, I actually started to intern for a record company called Hidden Beach Records. At that time, Jill Scott was signed to it, Kendrick the Family Soul, a lot of your soul artists. And I also had an internship with TV One. So I was doing a little mixture of TV and music. And I like both. And so when I moved to New York, I got another internship with Def Jam and Motown. Then I went on to work with Central Park Summer Stage and work with you. So that's pretty much how I got my start in the music industry.
Let me ask you a question. How important is it to do internship or do work? Was there ever a line where you realized, okay, maybe I'll go for the job or I'm try to get an internship at a certain company?
I mean, I think because I started in college, but even if you don't go to college, I think it's so important to get your feet wet before you dive right in, unless you just feel like you have all the resources, you've been mentored, and it's now your big break to take that step to go right into the job. But I think that you can learn a lot by interning and just getting that knowledge ahead of time. And I recommend any college student, even adults, to still get involved with interning before you say, hey, because it might be something that you're interested in, but you might not know exactly the knowledge behind it. So I advise taking an internship. I think it's the best thing that could have happened for me, and I built a lot of great relationships along the way.
That's great. Now, of course, you've worn many hats in the industry and still do, but one of the things that you really have built has been this huge booking agency company. Can you maybe explain a little bit what a booking agent actually does?
Sure. So basically, a booking agent is responsible for routing tours, booking artists. We basically get you the job in a live performance space. And so my concentration more so is in music. My goal is to actually move into acting at some point. But my job is simply to build relationships with promoters, with talent buyers, with venues and performance arts. Different industries, and route and book tours and keep you guys on the road, and having an opportunity to meet your fans and gather. So that's pretty much the job of what a booking agent does, is basically getting the job for the artist to perform.
Would you suggest an artist from the gate look for a booking agent, or should they wait till they get signed or have some records or some shows under their belt? When is a good time to start looking for a booking agent?
I honestly say I think you should wait before you jump into trying to hire a booking agent, because you have to really think about our time. Our time is valuable. I really think that artists should really figure out who they are and start to build their fan base in their market, start to pay attention to their own numbers and build their own network, as I mentioned, because when you come to a booking agent, we have to then take that time to build out that relationship with those buyers, with those venues. And at the same time, most venues and buyers want to say, hey, have you played my market before? What's your numbers look like that in this particular market? If you haven't built that fan base yourself, why would you hire me as your agent? Because then at the end of the day, my job is also to get paid via commission, and I'm borderline a salesperson. So I
Right.
don't want to waste my time with working with someone brand new. I want to help you get there, but I think you have to do the work before you go to a booking agent. And even when you just sign to a deal, I think sometimes there's some type of artist development, or you're sitting with your lawyers and your managers and you're mapping out what that trajectory is going to look like. Do we put the album out first? Do we let the album live a little bit? Then 6 months later, do we go on a tour? All of that has to be strategic. So I don't think you should rush in getting an agent. And honestly, truthfully, I don't want to waste my time if you haven't done the work already for yourself.
I know that's right. Don't waste my time either. Amen. uh, well, you as a perfect example of somebody building their brand. so in building your fan base, how important is it for you to market your brand in certain cities to even build it? It seems to make your job easier, but like we look at what comes first, the chicken or the egg, but how important is building that brand? And maybe what are some ways that some people can build their brands in certain cities before they get a booking agent?
I mean, I think it's so important. I think some of the things with the rise of social media, like when we first started working together, I think it was almost 10, 12 years ago, something like that. We really only had MySpace, and Facebook wasn't really equipped to build out that platform. So like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Eric Roberson's catalog or his work, but he had this forum called Aerofam. And so he is you're an example as to what an artist should do. So I think in today's time, build with social media. There's Instagram, there's YouTube, there's Facebook, you know, there's Patreon, there's Imagine BC, there's all these different platforms, Quibi, that you can start to build your fan base in person. Like I said before, like if you're in your market, start creating these different, let's go back to old school when we had the listening parties, you know, being creative in those ways to say, hey, well, you come listen to my song. I have this free event that I'm doing. I want to invite you in. So it's organic. Or if you're in a university market, maybe giving some music to some of the college radio stations and saying, hey, do you mind if I come in to do a quick interview with you? But I think it's very important to build your fan base before you go out on the road, because if you start to build online or inside your market, then those fans are going to follow you, and then it just continues to grow.
Well, speaking of growing, we talk about trying to grow our budgets and stuff like that. And I know you're in constant negotiation with different venues and promoters, but can you explain a little bit more about how you work with offers, and just also explain a settlement sheet? Nothing is finished till it's in writing. Maybe explain those two things, negotiating offers and like settlement sheets and stuff.
So in the beginning, when somebody reaches out for an inquiry, say I want to book Eric Roberson, they're going to say, okay, what's your open availability? Then most likely going to come with a budget. So from there, you start to say, okay, well, I know what my artist rate is. Do you think that you can afford this budget? Then they say either yay or nay. Then you start to negotiate. From there, I always get an offer sheet. And on an offer sheet is basically a sheet or a term sheet that says, hey, the location, the venue, the radius clause, how much the budget is going to be hospitality. All of those things are things that you want to pay attention to on your offer sheet. And I do believe that anything that you do in business, you should have in writing. So that's the first art of negotiating, is the negotiations, the inquiry, and then the offer sheet. On the backside, after the show has happened, what you want to receive at the end of the night, when you walk away, you go back to that offer sheet, then you go into I meant to mention your contract. So your offer sheet, if you don't have a standing contract, you'll have your offer sheet. But the settlement sheet at the end of the night, when everything is all settled and done and the fans have gone home, is you and the buyer or the promoter having a conversation about how many fans showed up. Did this amount of money come out with hospitality? Did we have a guarantee versus a door deal? Or is it a bonus or a plus behind that guarantee? So if it's a guarantee and that's just all that it is, then you know that if you gave me a 50% deposit, then you owe me the other 50% on the back end. That information is going to be listed on your settlement sheet. Like I said before, you're going to also see how many people were in attendance. So in case you happen to have a door deal, then you can say, well, there's 500 people here, but we only had 200 people. And then you can say, well, you owe me this certain amount of money on the gross of the door or the net of the door. And so that settlement sheet basically is a breakdown of what happened throughout the night, how many people came, what the band did in merchandising sales, because you also might have to do a percentage with the venue where the venue might take 90% of the artist keeps 90% and the venue takes 10 or 70-30. Those are some of the clauses that you see on a merchandise settlement sheet. So that's pretty much what a settlement sheet. The offer sheet is in the beginning with the contract, and then the settlement sheet is at the end of the night when everything is settled and done.
I know that's right. All right, so I can't even avoid this. We have to talk about the COVID-19 pandemic we're in right now. How has this affected you? We work from the road. So how has this affected your company?
Whew. Man, I've never seen anything like this before. I can say when March hit, we actually had an event on March 14th that I remember Mayor Bowser coming in and saying DC is about to get shut down. And I know some of my members were like, in my team were like, no, I think we should still do it. But I'm like, I'm the founder of Briclyn. It's a liability on me in case somebody comes in and gets sick. So I started to see like how serious this thing was going to get. The next week later, I mean, I tell you, every single day for 2 weeks, I had cancellation, postponement after, I mean, just back to back to back. And I was just like, oh my God, because you're counting on that money. It could have been like, I might have received some deposits ahead of time, but some deposits were coming. And I canceled and postponed about 30 shows. I also produced a music festival in New Jersey, and it's a huge festival. And I had to make a decision to pull that. And this would have been our 5th year producing this event. So it's definitely affected me. And I had to take, honestly, to be truthful with you, I had to take a mental break because I was just like, okay, what do I do next? It will also start making you think like, should I shift my career? Like, is music, is it stable enough for me to continue to do what I do? But I love the clients that I work with, and I love the music behind everything. So I got out of that. I gave myself some time to regroup, and I said, you know what? Okay, let's start planning for 2021. I started to think like when an artist records an album, like, for example, when you're recording an album, Eric, you're honestly not touring as much. So I started to shift that in my mind to say, you know what, let's forecast for 6 to 10 months out. Okay, 10 months is going to take us into 2021. If, you know, everything goes as planned, then we'll be able to go back in the road. So I'm treating this time to say, hey, an artist is recording, although they're still online doing their thing, but they're recording. I'm just going to get smart. I'm going to pitch to my buyers. I'm going to build new relationships with people that I haven't spoken to before, and I'm going to keep following up and being persistent in my pursuit to that. So it's affected me, but I gave myself a mental break, and I think all people should. But now I'm back and I'm ready to run and roll.
I love that. Mental break is always important because our health, as you're a leader of your company, you need to take that. You kind of touched on what my next question will be, but so I'll ask you just what, if you forecast, because you're working towards the future, but how do you see things changing when we do open back up? Do you think it will be this year, or are we more focused on 2021? But then even what are the certain things that you'll see change in the touring community?
I honestly don't think that we're going to open up this year. And I've been saying this honestly since March. When those cancellations were happening, I started to see like if things were really bad in March and April. And I said, okay, even if they do, you know, come out with a vaccine or whatnot, people are going to be too afraid to gather. And so it's crazy when we talk about the power of gathering. That's why we do live shows. That's why you guys perform. It's about coming together. I think that's something we're going to be missing. But I think that we might come back in 2021 and just hearing things that certain people like the Live Nation presidents, or speaking to some of my buyers. I actually had a conversation with World Cafe Live last week, and I was speaking to my buyer, and I was just asking him how he was doing. He was like, it's the weirdest times, but even if they're independent, so there's an organization called NIVA for the National Association of Independent Venues. A lot of them they don't have big budgets like the Live Nations and the AEG, so they're going to most likely open up the city wineries and things of that nature. But one thing Jeff said to me, he was like, I honestly, in quotation marks, don't believe that we're going to be at full capacity no time this year. So I already think that venues are starting to change in their mind, like, hey, we got to get smart. We're not coming back until probably mid 2021, summer 2021. I don't honestly think anything's going to happen until the fall. But, you know, I think some of the things that artists can be doing right now is getting smart about the virtual platforms such as Twitch or such as live stream. I know that Mark Zuckerberg also mentioned that live stream, Facebook Live, they're going to be able to charge soon. So artists will be able to do free concerts, charge concerts on their pages and things of that nature, or stage it. Platforms like that, even the platform that you have, Eric, Patreon, getting smart. If you have a large following, maybe shifting them over to a private platform where you can then charge a fee for that. And also using the Instagram Live, so when you want to do certain things. And there's a cool platform that I'm actually going to use very soon, and I spoke on it a couple of weeks ago, called Hopin. If you want to create a virtual conference and a networking session, you can use platforms like Hopin to utilize those spaces. So I think you just got to do your research and figure out which platform works best for you. But one thing I also advise, if you're doing IG Live, you know, know, pin your Cash App, use your tip jar rule, and get some funds. You got to do what you can do and try to get some type of means of income while we're still trying to figure this out, and take advantage of the different relief funds like Music Cares if you're a performing artist. And that's pretty much some of the things that I'm doing and trying to shift those narratives over to some of the people that I work with.
Well, you are such a book of knowledge as well as an open book. The last question I would have for you pretty much is any advice you have for people in booking or even on the creative side, people that are building their brands. Any closing advice?
Yeah, I would just say, you know, it's this thing called like the PPR, the power of being persistent, the power of being positive, and the power of being resourceful. Like, you got to use all of this, because in the world of booking and talent buying and for artists, many times you're going to come up against people that tell you no. Doesn't necessarily mean they don't like your music. It might just mean that they don't, your particular music or performance style doesn't fit in that format. So you got to keep a positive attitude, and then also be persistent, follow up. That's one thing in my game of being an agent. That's all we do. We sit on a call and we sell our clients. So every time I hear somebody say no, I'm like, okay, that's another doorbell ringing to me saying, hey, somebody else will say yes. If this one person didn't say yes, then I'm going to go to this person over here. But you got to be positive, keep a positive attitude. You got to be persistent, and you got to use your resources. So I always say your network is your net worth. Utilize those skills, especially during this time, because we're sitting at home researching and watching. Don't just watch, but write everything down that you want to do. Put it on paper and see it through.
Anshia Crooms, you are brilliant, and I just want to say thank you and look forward to working in person again.
Oh.
Right now, we're going to rock out cyberly, but I really enjoyed this quick conversation. Thanks for joining.
Thanks so much, Eric. I appreciate you too, and thank you, DC Grammy chapter.